So, Guy, hello. You've had a bad shoulder. You've had it fixed this
I've
week.
been in hospital. I had a shoulder operation, and so I'm currently in a sling and can't really do anything. Um, but the funny thing is, no, but it's getting better quickly. And I started thinking, oh, this is all right. I can start to. And then funnily enough, Johnny Marr has had something similar recently, and he sent me a text saying, "Guy, don't think you can do anything. Don't be an idiot, man. I tried it, driving, moving things, playing guitar. It's not a good idea."
Well,
So, all right,
I would always rather listen to Johnny Marr than my doctor or surgeon.
Well, I always find whenever I need any orthopedic advice.
Yes, of course. Phone Johnny. If you bandage up your other one, you could probably get your 80s jackets back on.
It's quite funny because I have been feeling very 80s because I've been walking around because you have to, you put your coat on with just one sleeve, so you're holding the other one. So it feels like a cape. So you do feel like you're in a Russell Mulcahy video a bit.
We need to get a bit earlier than that. We need to get Studio 54 really, don't we?
That's very true. I'm so excited about this one. I'm all a tingle.
Yeah.
I've got Gary. You're going to have to sort of do the narrative because there's a few things I really want to hear. I've got there's a few questions that I really want to hear the answer from the horse. So
right.
Speak.
Okay, let's get the horse on. Welcome to the Rockonteurs.
Well, it's a big tune for sure. I actually wrote that originally for Tina Turner.
Of course, I had gone and found Joni Mitchell down in Florida and brought her back.
What people forget about Bowie is that he was such a kind man.
Remember me? I'm in a band now. It's called Roxy Music.
You know this thing about the 10,000 hours of experience?
Oh, yeah.
Get good at something. When we recorded Arnold Lane, we'd done about 50 hours.
The Rockonteurs podcast with Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt.
Okay, guys, I'm ready.
So Nile Rodgers, welcome to Rockonteurs, Nile.
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
Where have I heard that before? It's this. Where to begin? There's just so much that you've done, and so much. I've got to say personally, how much you've shaped my life musically. We've actually played in a couple of records together.
Are you kidding? Which one?
Yeah, with Brian Ferry.
There's a couple of Brian Ferry tracks. Of course.
And I worked on. I don't think I ended up on the record, but when you did that song, "I'm a Stranger, Far From Home."
Yeah, help me.
Fly. Yeah,
help me for the Fly.
Bumped back to between you and us in London.
Uh-huh.
So actually, if I quickly get it, and I did have this incredibly life-changing experience when I was 22. I worked with Nard.
Wow, cool. On which project?
That was on Riptide, the Robert Palmer album.
Ah, shit. Yes, that was awesome.
And in fact, the bass credit on that reads bass by Bernard Edwards and Guy Pratt. And I always thought I should have just quit then.
Actually, there is a connection that's kind of deeper between you two. I want to get to that in a bit, which is you played for Roxy Music, didn't you, Guy? And you were really inspired by Roxy Music now, which I still find incredible, because none more British than Roxy. But first of all, just where are you? How have you been getting on with the pandemic?
It's been actually pretty good for me. The timing, I'm just talking about, what I've been able to do as a result of being locked down. So I had to get eye surgery, and I needed time to recover. But we've been on tour with Cher for the last couple of years, as well as doing our own arena tours throughout the world and primarily the UK. And then plus I work at Abbey Road, so I've been gigging. And when the pandemic hit and we were locked down, I was able to get the eye surgery and also have the time to recuperate, which was a long time.
And so you're good now? Your eyes good?
Yeah, they're great now, and it's all worked out for the better because my vision is back to 2020. It's fantastic, and I've written about 100 songs. It's insane.
Well, unfortunately, you'd already written I Can Barely See in Front of Me.
At last I am free, I could hardly see in front of me. But that was because of acid, not because of cataracts.
Wasn't that you were at a demo in Central Park and you were tripping and you couldn't get out?
Yeah. I had dropped acid, and every time I took a step, the buildings took a step with me. It was like, what? Oh, come on. And I would take a step and the buildings would take a step, and I'd take a step and the buildings would take a step. And finally I got to close to Central Park South, 59th Street. And when I got out, my first thought was, Jesus, at last I am free. And I kept that thought in my head and then wrote a song for our band. At that time, we were hippies, and it was a power rock ballad. It was, I am bound, I can hardly see in front of me. I can hardly.
Yeah, I can hear that. That would work. Although, but the Chic version is just so majestic.
Yeah, it was really big. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 it was awesome. It was so triumphant.
You don't need drummers. What year was that?
That was 69 or so. Yeah, it was. Sorry, it's about 70. Because when Bernard joined me, we still played it as a rock ballad. It took a long time before we turned it into a Chic song. We were a group. We were a hard rock band called The Boys, Boiz, and we played it as a rock ballad.
That's so punk. You're so ahead. You're so ahead of your time there. That's so punk.
Yeah, no, I had a punk band called Street Punk, and we didn't call it punk rock. We just called it punk music. So that's how old I am, pal. There was no such thing as punk rock. That was like bullshit. No, we were punk. We were a punk band, not punk rock. We're like, what the fuck is punk rock?
This is the thing with you, because you just don't live in that soul world. You've been really influenced by rock, and the thing you wanted that you saw that made you want to form Chic was Roxy Music.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was that in the UK?
That was in the UK. So we had a band. We had a band called New York City, and so New York City were the singers, and we were the band. We were called the Big Apple Band. So it was New York City and the Big Apple Band, and we had a hit record that went, "I'm doing fine now, without you, baby." Right, exactly. And then the Pasadenas covered that later.
Weren't all those musicians back then? This is one thing I love. Is this whole group of musicians who shaped New York and by that shaped the world? All kind of came from Sesame Street, right? Or weren't you all working on that?
Yeah. Well,
That's so cool.
I was I was a Sesame Street band member, and then moved to the Apollo Theater. And then Carlos Alomar was there before me, and he joined Bowie's Young Americans.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was all the guys, wasn't it? It's an amazing list of musicians who went through it.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm jumping forward or backward here, but Niall, I'm sorry. There's what?
Yeah, because I want to get the Roxy Music story soon.
Okay, but there's a question. I've got to hear this from the horse, so to speak. Right, the story on it is that when you first spoke to Nard, right? This is Bernard Edwards, by the way, listeners. Apparently, now this story I know is your aunt, I think it was, worked at the next booth from him at the post office and told her.
Close. It was my girlfriend's mom.
There you go. But the story is,
my girlfriend
I heard, right, and I'd love to think this is true, is that apparently the first time you spoke to each other on the phone and you were telling him all your ideas about Hendrix and Indian music and orchestral and stuff and everything, and he said, "Brother, can you do a brother a favor? Lose my number." Yeah,
it actually was. It was shorter than that. It was shorter than that. It had no brother in it. It was the exact quote. The exact quote was, "Yo, my man, lose my number." Click, hung up the phone on me. Now remember, we
and how worlds collide, man. That could have changed the shape of music.
But it wound up working out perfectly. But let me give you the backstory on this. So my girlfriend's mom worked at the post office right next to Bernard, and she never heard him play a note. She just said, "There's something," So my girlfriend's mom, she was married to a famous jazz bass player, an upright bass player, and somehow she says, "I don't know, this cat next to me, he just got a vibe. I don't know. There's something about him." So she told him, she says, "You should meet my daughter's boyfriend. He's really cool, blah, blah, blah." So he called me up. And in those days, when we put bands together, we had a newspaper in New York called The Village Voice.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to get the most well-rounded players we could find. So you would always put an ad, we'd call them strip ads, and you would say, looking for bass player to play funk, jazz, prog rock, blah blah blah. You know, whatever it was.
Not on Heavy Trip.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
No beer.
No heavy trippers need apply. So she gave Bernard my phone number, and he called the house, and I was really into my hippie head. All of the people who lived in the apartment with us were like deadheads, and oh my God. So one dude, so my girlfriend's mom's boyfriend, he was a total Frank Zappa fanatic. So he was a Zappa fanatic. My boy Lonnie was a deadhead. And I remember, we're all black and Latino, right? So he was a deadhead. And I was like totally into Jimmy, but I also liked, I was a huge fan of Traffic and Country Joe and the Fish and all sorts of really hip jam bands, and I love surf bands. So when Bernard called me, he says, so my man, I hear you looking for a bass player. You trying to put a band together? And I went total hippie on him. I said, yeah, man, like I want to be a cross between like Fairport Convention and a little Mahavishnu, like some Country Joe and the Fish, man, and Bernard just listened to me go on and on with this sort of like hippie diatribe, and then this is all he said: "Yo, my man, lose my number," and hung the phone right up on me. Click.
And what he didn't realize were they were the ingredients of chic.
So right, Fairport Convention, little Mob Vishnu.
There's so much, Fairport Convention and the surf angle, something we really want to get into, obviously.
Well, listen to He's the Greatest Dancer by Sister Slade. With the tremolo on it. So that was like Ventures. But anyway,
Bernard turned up, did he, in the end?
No. That's not what happened at all.
God, this is too good.
We used to do pickup gigs in those days, and they basically paid $15 a night. But when a person called you, you would put on a bullshit act and act as if you were trying to negotiate. And you knew that you were only getting that gig because the guy who had it had a gig paying more money. So he was now turning you onto his gig that was a cheap gig. So this guy called me up and said, hey, Nile, my name is Hack. I got a gig for you if you can make it Friday night. And I said, well, what's the gig paying? And he said, well, it's a 15-center. And I thought about it for a split second, like I was going to, damn, let me check my book. It was like I had nothing to do. I said, all right, cool, I'll be there. So at this point in my life, I was primarily a jazz guitar player. But, I still made gigs with my big jazz box. They were small clubs anyway, so it didn't feedback too much. And also we put tape across the F-holes. So I show up to the gig and I was a little bit late. And when I got there, they were already gigging. They were already playing. And they were doing a really popular R&B song at the time called Sissy Strut. And that's always played in the key of C. Right. Right. So I ran in, I was late, stuck my guitar in, and, picked right up on the groove. Ding, 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 boom. And then, so after we finished that cut, the band leader, the dude who had called me, started asking if we knew this song and that song. And half of the songs I knew, and half of the songs Bernard knew, but we didn't actually know them. We could just hear so well in those days that we could call out the changes to the other guys in the band who were primarily jazz guys who didn't really know those tunes. So Bernard and I took it upon ourselves to coordinate the band. Now, I had no idea he was the guy that had hung up the phone on me, and he had no idea that I was the guy talking about Fairport Convention and Country Joe and the Fish. So after the gig, it went so well. The band leader loved us, and he booked us for the next few days. And then Bernard said to me, as we were going home that night, he said, damn, man, I don't want to do any gigs unless you're on it. He said, man, you made it a piece of cake, man. You know, it was great the way we worked together. And I said, you know what? I was thinking the exact same thing. I don't want to do any gigs without you. So every time he got a gig, he would call me. Every time I got a gig, I would talk to the person who called me. I say, hey, man, look, I got a bass player that's fantastic. Let's call him. So this went on for a couple of months, never, ever, ever knowing that we had spoken. So one day we get on the train. Oh, Bernard and I live 1 block away from each other, as luck would have it, right? So we had no idea. We live right next to each other. Like, you could look out of my back window and look into Bernard's front window. So we became best of friends. So now one day we get on the subway and we're sitting there and we're laughing and joking. And my girlfriend's mom gets on the subway and she comes walking towards me. And I thought for sure she's going to come over and give me a kiss or a hug or whatever. She walks right past me and goes to Bernard and says, so I see you cats hooked up together. And he looks at me and goes, that was you?
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. Oh, my God.
It was meant to be.
What a story. You know, but normally bass players normally hook up with drummers, don't they? It's quite a sort of an unusual pairing.
Because it's, you know, drums are drums. I mean, but it's true. You want some harmony to what you're playing. It's you know, playing bass on your own.
Right.
Was Nard then? I mean, because where does that come from?
Oh, my God.
No one.
And did he have a style? He had a style then that was the one we know.
Hell yeah.
Right.
I wasn't Nile. No, Bernard taught me to be Nile because I was a jazz dude, and Bernard started out as a guitar player. And he was in a band that had 2 guitar players, and the bass player was the leader of the band. And they worked for some pretty hardcore people. As a matter of fact, it's the people who wound up becoming Sugar Hill Records, Sylvia and Joe Robinson.
Oh, wow. Sylvia Robinson,
Joe Robinson. So,
yeah.
So the band leader asked to get paid. Somehow they hadn't gotten paid for a while. And I think either Joe Robinson or some guys who worked for Joe beat the guy up and broke his thumb. So he couldn't play bass. So Bernard was the guitar player. So Bernard started playing bass.
But now you mention it.
True story.
Wow. Because now you mention it. Because when I was working with him, I mean, he said this terrifying thing. He used to sit me down and he gave me a couple of lessons, which was just like mind-blowing. But he had that because he had a guitar style, didn't he? Because he's so strong.
Right. He played with his fingers like he was strumming.
With the finger. I mean,
didn't he teach you the chucking style? He taught you that, didn't he? So I've read and...
Yeah,
he came up. He showed you that style that you are famous for.
I didn't play like that. I played more like...
You described yourself as you basically took McCoy Turner and put it on the guitar, right?
Right, McCoy Tyner. So that was my style of playing, but I didn't chuck. I just played, you know, really cool guitar voicings with fourths and a lot of voice leadings. Like I Want Your Love is famous for it. That's really me ripping off McCoy.
Although I don't really hear that. The thing is, all those, and it's, you know, I spent years writing songs just stealing sheet chords, and I've never heard those chords anywhere else before. I mean, now they're an absolute template. So that whole suspended minor ninth and minor sevenths, all that. But I'd never heard that before in pop music.
Right.
When did the Doobie Brothers say Long Train Come? When did that sort of style, was that earlier or was that late after you? Was that inspired by you?
That was before us, but that was a different style. They didn't really do. So the people in rock that were most like our voicings would be like Donald Fagen and those guys.
Yeah.
Steely Dan would play more chords like us. But the very first song I ever wrote for Chic was Everybody Dance. That's some pretty hip shit. I mean, that's like not your standard fare. So to give you a really good example of how I stayed true to my Chic-ism, if you will, when I was doing Let's Dance with Bowie, I put a minor 13 in the progression for the second chord.
Yeah.
Right, so we go to a minor 13. So you know, I always like putting jazzy chords in pop songs, and still making them sound pop.
By the way, talking of Everybody Dance, that used to be my go-to thing whenever I went into a studio when I had to, you know, because I used to just DI. When I plugged in, and I was getting my sound up, I'd without thinking, automatically play Everybody Dance. And when I was smuggled into the power station to put the bass line down on this song on the Power Station album, and Bernard was there, and I was so fucking scared, and I couldn't see straight, and I couldn't look at him or anything. And without thinking, they plugged me without thinking. Jason Casaro plugged me in without thinking. I played Everybody Dance. And Nard just went, "Shut up, motherfucker, make me feel old."
I suppose Kool and the Gang were a big inspiration, though, weren't they? Didn't they have that?
Yeah, for me, because that was my cousin's band.
Oh, there you go.
I come from a real musical family on my mother's side. Like, everybody were really, really talented musicians. And so my cousin Spike was an original member of Kool and the Gang. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't hear this, but when I wrote Good Times, that was my homage to Kool and the Gang's Hollywood Swingin'.
Yeah.
Hollywood Swingin' goes boom, 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 boom.
Let's hear it. There's a bit of Let's All Dance in there as well. I can hear that too.
Yeah.
Oh, I always thought, well, we could maybe get to this later. One thing I find really interesting, because one of the first, when we get to the Roxy Music thing, is that's because that timing you'd never really heard in disco or anything like it before. And actually, one of the first bass line thing where you ever heard that was Love Is the Drug.
Yeah.
Dung, dung, ka-dung.
Yep. Yep. So you know how I so the Roxy Music thing, so I was getting into that. So I was in this band called New York City, right? And we had a hit, I'm Doing Fine Now. We toured on that one record for about 2 years, maybe a little longer. And we finally wrapped our tour. The very last gig we did was in the UK. And we had released the second album that didn't net any hits. So the group disbanded, but the band, the musicians, we sort of stuck together and we kept the name the Big Apple Band. But when they left to go back to the States, somebody had stolen my bag with all my money and my passport. And we were staying right over on, right off the park, right over on Bayswater at some little...
Columbia Hotel.
Yes,
I bet it was the Columbia Hotel.
some little cheap hotel over there. And when we were packing the coach to go to the airport, somebody just snagged my bag and they were like, poof, and we're gone. I didn't even see it happen. So the band took off and left me. And thank God I had a really cool girlfriend who was working at this, what they called, what did they call them? Pardon me. They called them hostess clubs. And it was called Churchill's. And she was just gorgeous, just drop dead. And I stayed at her flat for a few days because they left me on the weekend and the American embassy wasn't open and I couldn't go apply for a passport until the following week. And it may have even been a bank holiday. It was like I had to stay there. And I didn't mind because my girlfriend was pretty awesome. But so she took me to see her favorite band, and it was Roxy Music. And you guys were playing at some joint called like the Roxy Tavern or the Roxy Playhouse or the Roxy Club or something like that. And I went, holy cow, the Roxy Music playing at the Roxy Tavern. And it was like, and the audience was looking beautiful and the band was dressed up. And I was like, damn. We've had a lot of rock and roll bands, but we don't get dressed up. Whatever we wear in the morning is what we wear on stage. But like Roxy Music got dressed up to do the show. I was like, damn. So I called Bernard up and I said, man, we got to do the black version of this. And he was like, what? And I ran out. I went down to Camden Lock, where you could get all the albums really cheap in those days. And I didn't realize Roxy Music had 3 albums already. And I was like, whoa.
I love this.
I never even heard of these dudes. And they got 3 albums. And they had like Amanda Lear on the cover and like Playboy bunnies. And we were like, whoa, what's up with this?
Well, you lifted the album cover, didn't you?
Right. So if you look at the
first... This would be Country Life or something like that.
Yes. Right. So you look at the first Chic album cover. And we did the whole supermodel thing. And... so it was like... And
they're doing all the kind of 1920s style, aren't they?
Right, exactly.
It's got this kind of look to it.
Yeah, so we got all into it. And so we did the black version of Roxy Music. But while we were putting the band together, because Tony Thompson wasn't in the original Big Apple band, so basically it was just Bernard and myself and a singer named Bobby Cotter. Bobby had just finished a stint with Jesus Christ Superstar, so he could really sing. He played Judas, and he could just blow.
Oh, that's the highest song in the show, yeah.
Yeah. So we did a bunch of songs that only myself and Bobby did a little writing. Bernard hadn't written anything with me yet. So we took all those demos around, and every record company loved our demos. They all wanted to see us, and when we showed up and we were a black rock and roll band, they turned us down right away. They said, "Hey, you guys don't look like your music." We were like, "What do you mean we don't look like our music?" And we finally got what they meant. So Bobby, on one of our rock and roll gigs, he met a girl that became his wife, so he left the band. So now it was just Bernard and myself. So I still had the Roxy Music thing in my head. And I said, we got to do the black version of this. So we started hunting for musicians. It was like the Magnificent Seven. We were going around looking and looking and looking. And the first person we hired was a keyboard player named Rob Sabino, who played on every single Chic record to this very day. Amazing. So we hired Rob Sabino, and he said, "Man, you know what, man? You should see these friends of mine. They're called Kiss. And, let's go check them out, man. My good friend is Ace Frehley." So we went to check out Kiss at a club in New York called the Hotel Diplomat at the place called Le Jardin de Paris. And we went to check.
You're making this up now. These names are just too good.
No. Serious. Straight up.
It's like a Simon Templar Saint episode.
No. Totally straight up. So we go and we check out Kiss, and everybody is flipping out over them. They're like screaming. But then they take off their makeup, and not one person recognizes them. So Ace comes and sits at the table with me, and we're drinking and laughing, and I'm going, wait a minute. Everybody was just losing their complete shit over you, and now you're sitting here with me, completely anonymous. And that was
and you're not getting laid.
I'll tell you a funny story about Ace and that later on, but yeah. Okay. So I was like, this is amazing. You could be like rock stars, and then when you take off your makeup, nobody has any idea who you are. So the concept of Chic was a cross between the fashion and the coolness of Roxy Music and the anonymity of Kiss. And then we put our name in all uppercase letters. I'm actually looking at our first thing right now. It's right next to me.
Yeah.
All uppercase letters. So we had 2 C's, an H, and an I. Kiss had a K, 2 S's, and an I. We were like, yo.
Whose was the name? Who came up with the name?
Bernard actually came up with the name because I still wanted to keep the Big Apple band, and because we had a following. Why would we change our name? And the only reason why we changed our name was because a guy who I went to school with, a guy named Walter Murphy, put out a disco record called A Fifth of Beethoven.
Oh, yeah.
And he called himself Walter Murphy and the Big Apple Band. So everybody thought that was us.
Chic is very like Roxy Music as well. But you know what's interesting is this sort of circular thing going on between UK and America. So we had John Taylor on the show a few weeks ago, and I was in Spandau Ballet, he was in Duran Duran. We kind of had the same. We burst out onto the scene in 1980, and what we said every time was our music. What makes the 80s music? It's a combination of the Sex Pistols, glam rock, and Chic. So we but what I didn't quite fully understand is that Chic's inspiration came from glam rock. It came from Roxy Music as well. And of course, then you as a person end up coming in the 80s, end up coming back into the UK and redesigning our greatest glam rock star, David Bowie, and Duran Duran.
Right, exactly. And it's funny.
You just keep giving that gift, don't you?
The longest relationship I've ever had, it's now Diana Ross. I'm working with her now. But the longest relationship I've ever had with any artist has been Duran Duran and Brian Ferry. I've worked with them more and longer than anyone in my life. And now I'm working with Diana Ross again. So So
Wow.
she would be the longest, but it's really interesting because almost everyone I work with, and even when I get a big record, for some reason they don't call me again. Like I always thought I'd be doing every Madonna record. How do you not get called back after selling like 28 million records?
Do you know what it might be? 'Cause, I mean, I look at you as being almost, as far as the producer is concerned, as the American Trevor Horn. So, you know, in the 80s,
Right.
there was you and Trevor. And the thing is about Trevor, and maybe about yourself, is you become quite powerful and dominant on the record. You know, we love Nile Rodgers. We want to hear that Nile Rodgers sound. And sometimes solo artists go, might do a record where I just get the credit.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right.
That's what happens.
I play on every record I produce, basically, even if you have a guitar player in the band.
Now, one thing I want to ask you about, Niall, is one of the things I always love, which I think got overlooked at the time. Because did you used to write the lyrics together, or did you write the lyrics, or? Because what's extraordinary with Chic was what gets lost in the whole disco thing is that lyrically you were practically the Clash. I mean, My Forbidden Lover, Good Time.
Right.
And Dance, 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 having that yowza, yowza, yowza from the movie They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Yeah, They Shoot Horses, right.
It's so political and such social commentary that you're actually doing, but it's all wrapped up in this fantastic ball of fun that people don't notice.
And Freak Out, wasn't that rich? Freak Out was Fuck Off at one point, wasn't it? Am I right to say that?
Absolutely. It was Fuck Off big time. So it's great, man. You guys have either done your homework or you really...
No, I live this.
Great.
I'm such a fan.
Great musicians. So when Bernard and I met and we finally came to terms with, okay, you were that weird dude who was talking about Fairport Convention and Country Joe and the Fish. Bernard came from down south, and he came from a background where he wasn't political at all. Whereas my parents... the guy who raised me was white. I came from, even though my biological father is black, but my mom and the father who raised me, they got married in 1959. So they were an interracial couple, and the guy was white and the woman was black. And that was really head turning back in those days. So my parents were beatniks, like hardcore beatniks. They were big heroin addicts. And so I came from a very bohemian background. I was a subsection leader in the Black Panther Party. I was extremely political. So when Bernard and I got together, we actually sat down because now we're bandmates and we know that we're like partners forever. And I say, look, man, I have a very different perspective on the world than you have. And Bernard and I had never written any songs together. I was the sole songwriter when we were the boys. Right? He never wrote anything. And this, you're going to love this story. So the very first record I write for Chic is Everybody Dance. Now, we were Luther Vandross's band at the time. And so we were working with Luther Vandross.
And of course, Luther worked with Bowie as well, right? So,
right. Well, hello, guys. So that's the thing so we were Luther's band and we were playing at Radio City. And at Radio City in those days, you had two shows a night. So we would do the early show and then we'd have an intermission. They'd turn over the house. While they were turning over the house, I talked my boss, who was Luther Vandross, into doing a record, singing backgrounds on a record that I had written for my new group. Well, it wasn't Chic yet. We were still the Big Apple Band. And of course, Luther was great because he's a studio singer. So he brought all of his singers to the studio with me and me and Bernard. And I played on the second Luther album. And so we during intermission, we ran over and we recorded Everybody Dance. So we had just gotten Tony and just gotten Rob Sabino. And that's the first song we cut. And that song got played in the underground discos, but we couldn't get a record deal because the bulk of our demo was still rock and roll. So then Bernard gets a gig to play on a television commercial. And in those days, songs had to have an A-side and a B-side. So they did the A-side, which was for the New York Board of Tourism. And they did a song called I Love New York. And the B-side was just an instrumental. So the guy who wrote the B-side with Bernard came to me and said, hey, Nile, you're a songwriter. Can you turn this track into a song? And I said, sure. And I took that track, I played guitar on it, and then I wrote the song that would become Dance, 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 Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. But I said to the guy, I said, look, man, this bass line is as important as the guitar part, and I know who's playing bass. That's my partner. Why don't we bring him in on the songwriting process? And he says, but he doesn't write songs. I says, yeah, but he's my partner. So, I feel weird taking all the credit, and that bass line is making the song. So we bring Bernard in, and at that time, the song went, I just dance, 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 dance all of the time. I just dance, dance, dance all the time. And Bernard walks in, he listens to it, and he goes, yeah, that's pretty cool, man, but why don't you just call it Dance, Dance, Dance? And I looked at him and went, what sense does that make? He said, well, because that's what you're really talking about. You say, I just dance, dance, dance all of the time, all of the time. I just dance, dance, dance all the time. Just say dance, 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 dance. So we changed it to dance, 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 dance. We changed it to dance, dance, dance. And then my long hook was relegated to a contrapuntal part that we played on the micro move. Ding, 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 ding. Because I wasn't going to give up on my lick. So the lick is in there, but Bernard's hook was the thing to just go dance, 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 dance. And I was like, dude, I never want to write a song without you again.
No, so where did the Yowza come from? Where did the Yowza? Whose
that
idea
was
that?
my idea, because so what happened was, so Bernard wrote the hook, but we still had a song to write. So I said, well, what do we base the song on? And we noticed that the 12-inch record had just been, released as a format. And we noticed that all the DJs were playing these very lengthy songs. So we thought we'd make our first songs like 8 and 9 minutes. And we thought, well, what else was like that? Oh, the dance marathons back in the 1920s going through the Great Depression. And guess what? In America, we were going through the greatest recession since the Great Depression. Yeah. All of this stuff started making sense. It was like, damn, long records, marathon records that just play forever. And we got a great recession. Let's go back to the days of Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. And we stuck it in the song.
Wow. And you took some of those big band lyrics, didn't you?
Of course.
From
that
the
was
20s for some of the other songs.
Yeah, for Good Times. We go Happy Days Are Here Again, which is the Al Jolson. Happy Days are here again. And then the stars are going to twinkle and shine this evening about 8:45. So we couldn't do that. So we went, let's get together. How about 9:45?
And a tap dancing break. Come on.
Tap break. All right, we did the tap dancing. And we got the original guys, the Nicholas brothers, to tap dance on My Feet Keep Dancing.
Oh, so I've got to say, the one lyric, there's no lyric has ever stuck in my mind the way this has, which is just so genius ahead of its time, which has got to be Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci.
Fiorucci. Oh. So that's the very first time in any pop song, except for one very small record in France, that fashion designers were ever name checked. The only name checking that was being done at that time were cars. So people talked about Cadillacs.
Of course. Yeah.
People talked about
I hope they gave you frocks, love.
Dude, we got more swag than you ever saw. We got more stuff. Sorry about that. We got more stuff from Halston and Gucci than you could ever imagine.
That's really, that is like the whole Roxy music scene of what they were trying to do. You were really going into that Euro sound. I mean, of course, there was the La Palace was the big disco in Paris, and then the Studio 54 was what was happening in New York. And isn't there a song, a story that you've got, Nile, about Studio 54 and maybe not getting in? That led to you, right?
Yeah, that's Le Freak. So the thing is that people really get it confused because at the time we didn't have the opportunity to tell the entire backstory. We had actually been in Studio 54 a number of times, but I would only go with my girlfriend. And my girlfriend at the time had just graduated from a school called Fashion Institute of Technology. So that's where Norma Kamali and Jane Barnes and all these people who were actually dressing our band. We were wearing all the clothes from these people who had graduated from fashion. And my girlfriend was a stylist. So they knew her. She worked at Fiorucci. She worked at Henry Bendel's and, all these really fabulous stores that we had. We had the equivalent of, you guys had Biba in London, and we had Bendel. So every time I went to Studio 54, I was with her and her crowd. But one time, Grace Jones, who really loved the song Everybody Dance, at that time she was, she had it in her mind that we would be the right producers to produce what would then be her next album. So she told us to come to the back door of Studio 54. However, when she phoned us, we never knew what Grace Jones sounded like, her speaking voice. So she called us, and you guys know Grace now, right? You know her.
I can take a guess.
Right. So she calls up and she says, so look here. First, now remember, we never heard this ever. So she says, so darlings, you come to the back door of Studio 54, and you tell them that you are personal friends of Miss Grace Jones. So to us, it sounded like a cross between Bela Lugosi and Dracula, Marlena Dietrich, and Bob Marley. So we put all three together. And we knocked on the back door and we says, hello, we are personal friends of Miss Grace Jones, thinking that was tantamount to the, remove the brown M&Ms, whatever. We knew it was some rock and roll thing. So when we used that voice to try and get in, the guy slammed the door in our faces and said, oh, fuck off. And then we knocked again, and he finally opened the door. He said, didn't I tell you to fuck off? So we realized we weren't going to get in the studio that night, and we went back to my apartment. Luckily, my apartment was just 1 block away from the back door of Studio 54. So
you're always a block away.
Yeah, right.
Whatever needs to be a block away from, right?
So on our way back to my apartment, we passed a liquor store. What do you guys call it? Off license.
Yeah,
and we got 2 bottles of Dom Perignon. In those days, we called it rock and roll mouthwash. And we got 2 bottles of DP, went back to my house, and we swigged them down real fast. And when you drink champagne that quickly, you get lightheaded really fast. And so we got lightheaded, and we started singing, aw, fuck off. Fuck Studio 54. Fuck off. And we wrote it out. We wrote a whole narrative where the only appropriate or the most appropriate answer would be fuck off. Aw, if a cab driver cuts you off, fuck off. And we used to say, if your mama asks you to do homework, fuck off. And we were into it. We were laughing and having so much fun until finally Bernard, which of course bro, Bernard finally said, my man, this shit is happening. And I'm like, Bernard, Bernard, come on, we can't get this on the radio. This was 2 years at least before hip hop. It was like, how are we going to get fuck off on the radio? So the other good euphemism for that 4-letter word was freak. So people used to go, oh man, get the freak out of here. So we tried to go freak off, and that sounded really horrible. I just hated it. So me being a hippie at heart, I instantly fell into my hippie thing, and I went, oh my man, like how about calling it freak out? Like when you have a bad acid trip, man, like when you freak out. And Bernard looked at me like, what? What the hell are you talking about? So I instantly got my black identity card back, and I said, oh no, man, like when you with a fine girl and you're freaking out on the dance floor. And he said, oh yeah, and then there's that new dance that my kids are doing called the freak. And I went, boing, the light bulb went off over my head. let's do a song about a dance. Those always work. So we ran out.
Everybody likes to dance.
Yeah, come on, let's do a song about the freak. There is no song called The Freak. So we ran out to the store and we got the quintessential dance records, which was Chubby Checker, The Twist, and we got a record by Joey D and the Starlighters called The Peppermint Twist. And we got back to my apartment and we played both records from top to bottom, and we noticed one important parallel. Neither of these songs told you how to do the dance. Like, think about it. The twist, they don't tell you how to do the twist.
Well, he says it goes like this, but that's it.
Yeah, like what? The music comes in.
If it had to tell you, then you weren't hip.
Right. So we used that as our blueprint. So we said, great. We don't know how to do we don't know how to do the freak, so we won't tell you how to do it, but we'll tell you how to do it. So we go, allow us, we'll show you the way. Freak out, and we don't show you the way.
You know what I love? If you hadn't have been inspired or influenced by the anonymity of Kiss, they would have recognized you at that door, let you in, and the world wouldn't have the freak.
Yeah, exactly.
So when are Kiss getting the publishing money?
Yeah, I know, right?
What's the story you want to hear, Guy?
The story. I just want to hear it from you, because I know, unless you're really bored of telling it, which is, I just love the story of how you came to write "I'm Coming Out" for Diana Ross.
Oh, that was awesome. So
yeah.
So right in my neighborhood, so someone asked me earlier today.
One block away.
Actually, this was about 6 blocks away, but you're right. It wasn't far at all. So yeah, it was. So we used to make our way up 8th Avenue to Studio 54, but this was in the mid 40s. A club called the Gilded Grape, which was a trans club, and if you go back to those days. So you're an 80s guy, so you know that in the 80s the great thing about clubs is that everybody, I mean the world of club kids and just everybody went to the same clubs. It was like nobody cared about who was gay or
like
whatever.
Area was the one, right? Exactly.
Area was totally the spot. And so going to a trans club,
DJing, Christ,
Yeah, right. So I went to this spot called the Gilded Grape. And so this was the summer of 79. And I walked into the bathroom. And typically when I went to the bathroom, I was going to the bathroom to do nefarious stuff. But at this point, I was going to the bathroom to use the urinal. And I walked into the bathroom, and on either side of me, at least 3 to 4 deep on either side were Diana Ross impersonators. And because it was a nightclub, there was no dressing room, so they all went into the bathroom to dress up like Diana Ross to do a sort of a trans show. I was like, whoa. And so the thing is that like this was early in my career. Every hit record that I had, and believe me, at that point I had quite a few. So by the time it was the summer of 79, I already had I Want Your Love, Le Freak, biggest record and biggest song in the history of Atlantic Records. I had We Are Family, He's the Greatest Dancer, Dance, 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 Everybody Dance, I Just Can't Wait Till Saturday, and probably even a couple more. Every one of them, at minimum, was gold. Most were platinum, and some, like He's the Greatest Dancer, was double platinum, as was We Are Family. And Le Freak was triple platinum, it went to 7 million. In America, selling 7 million singles in 1979 was unheard of. So we were like we were pretty much the real deal. So I go into the bathroom, but still nobody knows me, right? Because of the anonymity of Kiss. So people know me as Nile, but no one is going to believe I'm working with Diana Ross. Like, come on, like, please. Right, you're going from Sister Sledge to Diana Ross. Give me a break. So I couldn't even get excited and like tell everybody, oh my God, you just gave me the greatest idea in the world. So I see all these trans guys, all these like, they're getting ready to do a show. Like maybe it was like, who could be the best Diana Ross impersonator? But I didn't know. I didn't even stick around for that. I just thought like, I just thought the alignment between Diana Ross and the gay community, if we could put that in a song, that would be as powerful as James Brown's Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Like, what would it be like to the gay? I said to Bernard, I said, man, we'll go #1 just on the gay community alone. This is the bomb. Like, this is better than Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci. This is smoking. Like, we didn't think like a whole bunch of fashionistas were going to go out and buy the record because we said Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci. But imagine like the gay community seeing someone that they idolize going, I'm coming out.
Incredible.
It was like, it was just amazing. And then the other part that was really important about that song, the first time we ever met Diana Ross, she came to a Chic show, and we were playing at a joint called the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium in LA. And no stars came to Chic shows in the beginning. Like, we didn't know anybody. We were new. Like, so we didn't have any star friends. So we look back and we see Diana Ross, and Bernard was like, wow, is that Diana Ross? And I said, yeah. He said, man, she's like a queen to me. So I remembered, Bernard Edwards says Diana Ross is like a queen. Now I see. So then I go into the bathroom at Gilded Grape, and see drag queens. Queen, Diana Ross. Got it. I write a fanfare for a queen. Coming. Coming out. Right. I'm boom, boom, coming, boom, boom, out, boom.
And those drums,
I write a fanfare. What the hell? It's a queen coming out. Let's go. And the whole thing made sense to me.
Didn't you have to sneak it past Diana?
We tried to. Well, we didn't have to at first, because she just loved the song. She just thought it was a great song. She didn't even.
She was a gay icon. She knew that, did she?
She didn't really think about it like that. What happened was she went and played the record for the #1 DJ in America. Actually, he wound up being the #1 DJ in the world, Frankie Crocker. And he said, damn.
He introduced us on stage, Spandau Ballet, when we first went to New York. Frankie Crocker came on, yeah.
Well, cool. So he told her what the song meant. He said, Diana, this song is going to ruin your career. And she said, what are you talking about? Do you know what this song means? Everybody's going to think you're gay. Now, Diana is so non-homophobic, it's ridiculous. But we had told her that we were doing an album all about her. We had said, coming from Motown, you were basically on an assembly line. No one really cared about you in particular. It was just whoever sang the song the best. I said, we're actually going to do a record that's constructed totally for you. So she sort of misconstrued what we meant. Like everything didn't have to be about her literally. Yeah. Like, she didn't have to be coming out, but she could certainly sing a song that goes, I'm coming out. So when she was so upset that Frankie Crocker had told her that, it was the one and only time I have ever lied to an artist in my life. And I've been doing this a long time. So I said, Diana, you come from R&B music. I don't know how it is in Detroit and LA, but what do you say when you start your show? She says, I don't know what you guys mean. We said, well, we have so many songs. We say, well, what song are we going to come out with tonight? So we said, we know the first song of the show is called our coming out song. Bernard would always say to me, yo, my man, what are we going to come out with tonight? So I don't know if you know the formula, but every Chic album has every Chic album is basically the same. It's our album is a new show. So we always have a coming out song on it. It's either an instrumental. Our first album had an instrumental called Open Up. No, sorry. Our first album had a song called Strike Up the Band. The second album had a song called Chic Cheer. The third album had a song called Open Up, because these are all, if you went to see a Chic show, the first Chic tour, when we were on tour with Heatwave and Rufus, we started with Strike Up the Band.
I love that.
and we always played wireless, right?
Yes.
So we started playing, and you couldn't even see us, right? So the girls were sitting there with their violins, and Tony would count it off, and we go, and Luther and everybody would be backstage, and we sing, strike up the band, making music is our plan, got to feel the rhythm, if you can, just want to, and then we'd walk out with our wireless. People had never seen that before. We're like a magic act.
I love it when bands do that. I remember McCartney and Wings, when they did Venus and Mars, they start with Rock Show, and it's the beginning of the show. And it's, I always think that's a great way to start an album.
Talking of which, Niall, do you remember, I don't remember, what became quite an important cultural event over here was when you played the Sheffield Odeon.
Of course.
That was 79 or 8. Which is when all the punks and the Skins and the electro kids came down, and they're all going to beat each other up.
Right.
And apparently you were so amazing, and you and everyone went off and started ABC and the Human League, and you spawned this whole musical thing just from being so great. And it was literally all these kids had just gone there to fucking cause trouble and beat up the disco.
I'll never forget it. It was like one of the greatest nights of my life. And after that was when we met the guy who wound up becoming a rock star, Leif. What was his name? Leif Garrett or Leif something or other.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody had the big hairdos and stuff. He was there. I think we met we met a lot of people that wound up becoming new romantic bands. Or they were, but they were sort of just starting out and weren't famous yet. But we met everybody there that night. It was great. Such a great night.
I just want to touch on you losing Bernard, right?
Yes.
That must have been such a terrible moment for you. Obviously, you know, you'd got Chic back together as well, hadn't you?
Yes. That was.
I mean, I know you'd worked without him before,
right? But now, once we reformed our partnership, it was in a strange way we were closer than ever, and we wound up having so much fun working on that record, and also by having a singer like Silver, we could explore other areas that we hadn't explored prior to that. Now, don't get me wrong, our original girls were great singers, and we had Luther. Then after Luther became a big star, we had Fonzie. So we had
Fonzie. I've toured with Fonzie.
Yeah, so we all right. Fonzie used to always call me from Brian Tours. So the great part of my life is that I have never had a bad band. Even when we were called street punk, even before street punk, I had street punk, I had New World Rising. New World Rising, we opened for bands like Foghat, the Stooges. We opened.
This is your program.
We opened for the Stooges. As a matter of fact, so when we were going to do our second gig with the Stooges, so we played Coachella. I think no, it was Glastonbury, and I guess Glastonbury a couple of years ago. And so we were talking to I was talking to somebody, and he was like saying, "Yeah, man, I played with Iggy Pop." I said, "Fuck, Iggy Pop." I remember when it was the Stooges, and it was Iggy Stooge, not Iggy Pop. And I said, "Do you remember a song?" I said, "Do you guys still do songs like bam, bam, boom, dum, boom, bam, bam? Do you feel it when you cut me? Dun, 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 dun." He said, "Of course we do that. Do you feel it when you touch me? Dun, 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 dun." I said, we used to play, and we opened for the Stooges. I mean, we know all their songs.
Wow.
And so
you made that sound so funky.
And so I said,
yeah, but it didn't sound like that when the Stooges played it.
Wasn't quite the same, but it was great. We love the Stooges. So I said we used to play for the Stooges. We used to open for the MC5. We opened for Elephant's Memory, which wound up becoming the Plastic Ono Band. So we were real.
Because Parliament and Funkadelic were doing that kind of semi-rock thing as well.
Right. Oh, Parliament. They were the band that just completely blew our minds. We played with Parliament Funkadelic at the Apollo, and we all put we put our.
God, what a show!
It was amazing. So this is when we were New York City, and we had the big hit record "I'm Doing Fine Now," but still. When you play the Apollo, you just can't do one song. You have to put on a show. So you know, New York City would do really great originals, but they would also do covers. So, but our covers were terrific. I mean, we had a whole show laid out, great choreography. So when when George Clinton walked up to me and said, "Hey, yo, man, let's make a wall." And we went, "What?" He said, "Let's make a wall." And he meant, let's put all of our amps together. Yeah, right. And let Mexico pay for it. So he said he wanted to build a wall of amplifiers. And that's what we did. We all put our amps together and just had this wall of sound, like blasting the Apollo audience. Wow. And so we went out and we played their whole show. Me and Bernard went out. And they didn't mind. Mind having like four guitar players and two bass players. It was just, and Bernard was killing, chucking away, and I mean, it was so great. And we knew all their songs.
Is there a recording of that? Is there a recording of that anywhere?
I don't think there would be a recording. This was just doing a show.
Because now everything's fucking recorded.
Yeah, but these days, no one had you had to specifically set up to record in those days.
I know.
But we found the other day, online when we did a show with Blondie, The Clash, and Chic.
At Bonds,
yeah, it's online somewhere.
Bonds. Hang on, I saw The Clash in Bonds in 1981. That wasn't the same period.
Yeah, the 21 Night Stand. That's right. It was you with
I was there. The same show.
And you did. It was 21 nights. So
I was one of
we're one.
But that's right, because it was you. It was they were playing the Magnificent
right,
Seven,
exactly.
And then you segue into Rapture, and then into Good Times.
Yep, and we went into Rapture, and we went into Good Times, right? And then all the sort of new jack b-boys came up on stage and started rapping, and that was the first time I met Fab Five Freddy and Futura 2000 and all those guys, and we were playing Good Times.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have to talk about Bowie. I know, otherwise we'll never forgive ourselves. I know Gary won't, because I don't know how much longer we got with you. I could do this forever. This is what I love about doing this podcast, Niall, is that I get to, if I ever bumped into you socially, this is all the things I'd like to ask you, and you'd be like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Get him away from me." That's why it's so great to be able to do it and not have to.
Me, he'd recognize, right? Me, he'd recognize. You, but who are you?
Yeah. So come on, let's dance. What is such a seminal record?
Yeah. What do you want to know?
You demoed the whole thing on your own, didn't you?
Not on my own. I did everything with David.
I think what I want to know is how was the relationship with both of you on that record? You know, how did you create together?
It was fantastic.
Because I love the story of, is it true? He showed you a picture of Little Richard with a red suit by a red Cadillac and said, "That's rock and roll."
So what we were trying to do was we were doing pre-production, and we were trying to figure out what did we want the record to sound like. And he and I went on adventures. Now remember, this is before streaming. So in order to hear the music, we had to go where the music was, right? Because how do you hear it? So we went to the Library of the Performing Arts, because you could listen to records there. We went to Jerry Wexler, who was one of the owners of Atlantic Records. We went to Jerry Wexler's house because he had a huge record collection.
And what were you listening to? So late 50s.
We were listening mainly to jazz, because that's really how we bonded. When David and I first met, we didn't talk about rock and roll. We didn't talk about R&B. We didn't talk about anything but jazz. So we only listened to jazz. And so that's
his last album with a jazz band. I mean, the guy's always loved that music, hasn't he?
Yeah. So that was the main reason why we actually had to go around to these places that had the kind of recordings that we'd want to hear, because how do you hear rare, jazz records or unique records? You had to.
What artists are we talking about?
Everything, man. We see David's knowledge was as deep as mine, and that's why we loved each other, because we were talking about everything from the most avant-garde to the most straight-ahead bebop. I mean, that's what I was raised on. I was raised on bebop, and I mean, those are my mother's friends, people like Thelonious Monk and Gloria Lynn and Nina Simone. And those are the people that used to come to our house. So, I mean, that's how I grew up. So, you know, Bowie, knowing that those are the people that I knew and idolized, that's what we went and listened to. And here's one of the things that most people don't know until I tell them. So we started listening to an album of famous like themes, like music themes or something. And I believe it was Henry Mancini who wrote the theme to Peter Gunn.
That's right.
And so we listened to Peter Gunn, and both David and I went, this is the coolest thing we'd ever heard. And of course we'd heard it a million times, but we just, you know, we could sit down and dissect it together. And we listened to Peter Gunn, and we loved it. It went bow, bow, boo, ba, boo, ba, boo, ba, boo, ba, da now. So Let's Dance goes, let's dance, bip, 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 dun, 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 bip, bip, bip. Peter Gunn, boo, ba, boo, ba, boo, ba, boo. There you go. So, right, when we were doing it, I remember that we both loved Henry Mancini's contrapuntal stuff. So we loved the fact that it went da-da.
Yeah.
Okay, but the bo-ba-boo, ba-boo, ba-boo. So, yeah, I stuck that lick. So when David invited me over to Switzerland, see, one thing you guys got to remember about me, I hear little nuggets of things, or I hear little ideas, and I pack them away and I remember. So now David invites me over to his house in Switzerland. So we had done all of this pre-production. We had talked about all of this stuff. And then one day he comes and knocks on my apartment door after us doing all this searching. Oh, and mind you, he had already charged me with writing. He said, Nile, I want you to do what you do best. And I said, well, what's that? He says, I want you to do a hit record. I'm thinking like, damn, all we're talking about is avant-garde jazz. And now you tell me you want me to do a hit record?
Yeah.
You are the most like bipolar, wacky dude ever. But I got it. Okay. I love jazz too. And I love hit records. You're right. Let's do that. So we listen to all this music. He invites me over to Switzerland. He comes down to my bedroom, and please don't take offense to my accent, but in my head, I sound like Bowie, or this is what it sounded like to me. So
we all do it.
He comes down, right? We all sound like Bowie. So he comes down to my room and he goes, "No, darling, I think this record's a hit." And he starts playing an acoustic guitar, going jang 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 jang. Let's dance, jang jang gang gang jang jang. And he starts talking, and he's just singing "Let's Dance" over and over and over again. And I said, well, what do you call that song? He says, I call it "Let's Dance." And I said, well, what is it about? And he says, it's not about dancing at all in the traditional way. He's saying the dance you do in relationships, the dance you do between disparate people, the dance you do between blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like going, whoa, David, I come from dance music. I cannot do a song called "Let's Dance" that doesn't make people want to dance. So I knew that he loved jazz. So I said, and he also understood the vernacular. So I said, hey, David, do you mind if I do an arrangement on this song? And he said, no, I'd love that. And I was like, cool. I rewrote the entire song. the Let's Dance that you know, there's nothing folky about it. And you can even go on YouTube.
But the chords, certainly the voicings are a dead giveaway.
Oh, yeah. And you can go on YouTube. That's what
he wanted from you, right?
Yeah. But at the time, I didn't know. So you can go on YouTube and you can hear the demo, what I did. I actually demoed the entire album except for the last song that we wrote together, which is either Shake It or Ricochet. I can't remember. I think it's Ricochet. But everything else, I did the whole album in 2 days. And I only found this out because his estate sent me a thumb drive, and it's right there on the thing. We recorded it at Freddie Mercury Studio Mountain in Switzerland. And I did the whole thing in 2 days, every song.
Oh, here's the question I'd like to ask on Let's Dance, because the whole thing, because it's all your gang on the album, right? And that's the wonderful thing. It's this old black Latino band. And Stevie Ray Vaughan. Where did that come from?
That's David's. That was David's thing. He had seen Stevie at Claude Nobbs's Montreux Jazz Festival, and he thought he was amazing, and he was right.
He loved those big, loud, wacky guitar players, didn't he? With playing lead.
Yeah, he loved it.
I opened for him on that tour, but I was in this Australian band, Ice House. We opened for him in Europe and the UK.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
It was amazing to see that show from backstage. It was just incredible.
Niall, we got to say thank you to you for doing this. I mean,
it's amazing.
We don't want to keep you all night. There's so many stories we could talk to you about. I mean, you know, we haven't even touched on Get Lucky. You know, I mean, when you just, you know, you came and invented
save that for the
I mean, everybody's summer.
Save that one for the next.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
podcast,
please.
Because I got to get to work.
Oh man, no, we cannot thank you enough. I've literally died and gone to heaven here. I cannot thank you enough. This is a real box tick.
You guys.
You know, but you're such a cultured man, and that's, I think, where, you know, you're interested in so many different kinds of music, right? Going back to Fairport Convention and wherever you know, I mean, that's
and Sandy Denny.
Your ear for different things and how you've brought it all together. And you've made music for the world for how 50 years now, nearly 45 years. I don't know, a long time,
pretty long time.
And we thank you for that.
We do thank you, and long may it continue.
And I tell you, I'm happy that I'm still doing it and having the time of my life.
What's next?
Well, I just told you I'm doing Diana Ross.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working on Coming to America with Burna Boy and Andrew Watt, and we're having a blast. We've already written it. I'm doing Idina Menzel's next album. We're having a blast. We are absolutely loving it.
Burna Boy have playing live. I've seen even in the pandemic. He did a show. Yeah,
I know. He's great, man. I love Burna. He's awesome.
Listen, you're going to be around for a lot longer, and we'll have you on again at some stage. I hope. But until then, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so. Yeah, it was such a joy.
What a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Rockonteurs.
And thank you to Niall, and thank you for listening. We are back next week with another superstar guest on the show. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and don't forget to leave a nice review.
And money.
See you later, Guy. Yes, and money.
Well, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from you.